Hello everyone, welcome to Room and Board. My name's Chris George, and today we have another Monday morning video. This time with more Tuesday. This is officially our Monday morning video. I'm sorry to tell you, you have 5 more days of work if you run a typical 5-day-a-week schedule. And if you're on a serving schedule, well, hey, don't check your email. Don't worry, you have today off. Congratulations! And if you're on a content creation schedule, well, enjoy as you put me on in the background and pretend you're doing work. Enjoy this half break from work as you lie to yourself and pretend to be productive, because that's certainly what I do. But first off, before we get into the week, shout out to my newest patrons, Jason, Renato, Todd, and James. Thank you so much for jumping on board and supporting the channel. Jumping on the Room and Boardiacs, being a Randy B, joining team #NoMoneyNoBrains. I'll stop doing that. Hey, if I get 5 patrons next week, I'll never do that sort of shout out again. And if I don't, well, who knows where this insanity might lead us. No, but seriously, thank you so much for supporting the channel, and everybody who supports the channel, I continually am thankful. So I will continually say this thing over and over again, because it means a lot. It really helps me spend as much time as I do on these sorts of videos and invest more and more time into the channel and keep moving in the upward trajectory. So thank you so much. It's really appreciated. You know. You know you're great. I don't need to tell you, okay? Let's get on to the games. It was Origins last week. I just came back, thus the delay. The reason why this is happening on a Tuesday and not a Monday is because I've spent all Monday researching all the games leaving Kickstarter. Content on that will be coming later this week, but this is Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single board game campaign finishing up this week, or almost every one of them. This one's a pretty light week, and I'm making it light because I quite literally fell asleep reading some of these rule books, and that really set me back for the day. And I can assure you that's probably not because I'm exhausted from this past weekend, but it is because the pickings are pretty slim this week. Well, they're not. There's still a bunch to cover, but I think we can agree that if a rulebook is so boring I literally fall asleep, then that's the bar at which I don't subject you to it. Everything else you're getting, but that's the bar. I hope it's a good bar, or maybe a good bark, as we make this incredible segue. Yes, it is. I will compliment myself on that. Into our first game of the week, which is Bark Avenue. Finishing tonight at 8 p.m., although I'm assuming there will be late pledges. But yeah, this is Bark Avenue, whose tagline is that they are a deeply thematic route optimization pickup and deliver dog walking game on the streets of New York City. The mean streets in this competitive dog walking game, as they describe it in the video, where you're just gonna walk those dogs so hard, you're gonna walk them harder than any other dogs in the neighborhood. Those dogs will be exhausted by the time they get back to their homes. You know which dogs will be barking? These dogs will be barking. That was my feet, by the way. Don't get your mind out of the gutter. What are you, a member of the Jim family?
Somebody should
No.
slip home.
I didn't even want him in. He wasn't even planning to be in here, and yet pops up at the inopportune time. Jim, not the dogs. The dogs still being my feet. And I've been thinking about the concept of competitive dog walking for an entire week, and the chaos that can be wrought to the mean streets of New York City as you body check someone out of the way and snag the dog right out from under them, run into the neighborhood and put them on the leash and drag them out. Their owners don't care who walks them. They just care that the dog gets walked. And they care that the dog gets walked for exactly the amount of time that the dog likes, playing exactly with their favorite toys along the way, and then you drop them off at their same neighborhood. And I mean, if you call your game deeply thematic, well then I'm gonna have to point out that you're just dropping dogs off in a neighborhood and letting them make their own way home, which seems incredibly irresponsible. Dog walkers do not take note and employ this sort of strategy in the hopes to get more tips. And also you're relying on the dogs to convey to the owners that yes, they did play with the yellow ball on this walk and not with the stick. Because if they had played with the stick, they would not be getting a sizable tip, or their dog walker wouldn't. It's good that these dog walkers can communicate this aspect, or you're taking pictures of yourself proving that you are playing with the dog's favorite toy as you attempt to walk all 3 to 4 of these sorts of dogs. But the premise of the game is pretty good. It's just that. You pick up a dog from a neighborhood, you try to walk it at its exact amount of time, and then deliver it off in the same neighborhood. And it has to be the same neighborhood, because if it was one place on the map, well, that would be incredibly boring to get back to. But at least if it's like 4 or 5 places on the map, it constitutes a neighborhood. You have more freedom in which you plan out your routes and try to optimize how much love you give to the dogs and how much you neglect the ones that don't deserve your love and affection. Which is none of them, because dogs are incredible. Definitely better than cats who keep interrupting this video. Artie, I'll be there in a second. But that's it. I like the length of time that you walk. I like that your slowest dog obviously slows your speed down, because you gotta wait for poor old Morgan trailing behind with her little gimp leg. That was my dog. She had a little gimp leg because she hurt her back on Friday the 13th. Horrible. I don't want to relive that. Dang it, Park Avenue, what have you done to me? But I like that some of the mechanics feel thematic, and it seems like a cool, fun game, and it's a decent price point. $49 US, $63 Canadian, and I like that as a price point. You could see this bumped up $10, and probably nobody would bat an eye. And shipping's okay. $9 to $15 in the US, $19 to $25 in Canada, so probably getting to be $90 Canadian to get to my door, which is a little much. I don't think this is going to have a wide retail availability, so if you do want it though, you kind of have to pay for it. And the art's cute. I love that there are little hound dogs in there. And most likely, hound dogs in there as well. Plus, I know Jenna Rose over at the Board Game Garden is getting herself a copy, so she lives just, hour down the road from me, I think, ish. So I will be stalking her house when fulfillment happens. If I need to get my copy, I'll just wait until it drops outside her door. I won't go play with her. I'll just wait until it drops outside her door. I'll run up, I'll snag it, and I'll run away. I'll be in a bush costume with a little dog on the side. Just thematic, also to distract her dog Penny. That sort of thing. So that's an easy way for me to, test out the game without having to get it myself. So if you are interested, check that out. That does finish tonight. So stop listening to this video, go look at it. Make sure you decide if you want it and get those squishy poop tokens. And yeah, that finishes at 8 p.m. tonight. Now, next up, we have a game called 44 BCE, and I am an idiot because this was at Origins and I didn't demo it, and I missed the booth. I thought that I'd mapped out the grid of all the exhibitors and I thought I'd covered everybody, and then I remembered that they had sent me an email before saying, hey, we're at Origins, come check it out, and I said, yes, I will be there, and then I was never there, and I'm the world's most horrendous individual. And that's too bad on two fronts, because present Chris could have saved that time reading this rule book and learned it over the weekend and actually done something to help his future self out on this long day. And two, because this one actually looks really good. Maybe I was just playing into the theme of lying and deceit that is prevalent in this game. And when a game has lying and deceit, well, I'm obviously going to want to partake in it. And the premise of the game is that Caesar's dead, and you have these 5 senators, Agrippa, Brutus, Cleopatra, Mark Antony, and Octavian, who are all vying to become the next emperor and control the Senate. And one of them will be marked as the current Imperium Maius. And that just basically means you control the Senate, you got all the power. And so obviously the other 4 are going to want to work together to topple that power out of your hands and into one of their hands. And so you're going to be placing this different influence behind your screen and then revealing it, and you need to work together to topple the Imperium Maius's control, because they have a bunch more control than just one individual. But you also want to do the things that'll make you the Imperium Maius and not the other people. And that is something that I love. I love that you do have to work together to take out this player, and if you don't work together, that player stays in power, and likely over 5 or 6 rounds, that's going to be pretty significant with somebody being in power twice. But you also have to juggle what's good for you and what's good for your own personal development. I think that concept is really neat. And so at the beginning of each round, you're going to be building stuff and then getting stuff from the stuff that you just built. Standard get stuff board game. But then it moves into the meat of the thing, which is the blind betting almost on different things. Different advantages that you need to take out the Imperium Maius for. And this obviously reminds me a little bit of Rising Sun. Rising Sun's mechanic of bidding on different advantages and then revealing your screen and going, haha, I lost completely and you read my bluff and now I'm sad. As most games of Rising Sun certainly do not go for me. So this one's $59 US or $109 US if you want to get the deluxe version, which has minis and metal coins, which you absolutely don't need. It's ostentatious, and that's one thing that they didn't value in Rome, was ostentationism. But with that $17 to $25 in shipping as well, with the extra bump, well, it's $17 to ship to the US and $25 to ship to Canada. That puts it at around $109 Canadian for me, and at that point, I think you should just probably go get a copy of Rising Sun if this interests you, because the battle mechanic feels similar. And I say it as the battle mechanic, but it's not a real battle, it's just the battle for control of the Senate or whatever. But this one does look cool. I am punching past Chris in the face for not visiting the booth and getting a demo of this. But also it helps me remain frugal, because then I can say, of course, no, this isn't the greatest thing I've ever played, thank goodness. And my resolve can remain firm, as perhaps it may not have had I been able to visit it and demo the game. So if you want that, or you just want an excuse to constantly say "Et tu, Brute" around the table over and over again, well, check it out. That finishes Thursday, June 16th at 12:01 p.m. Noon o'clock, in case you're like me and always forget your AMs and PMs. Now, next up, we have a game called Hacktivity, which is the world's quickest campaign game at 15 minutes per player per scenario. And this is a campaign game like Zombicide is a campaign game, in that it's not. It's just a bunch of scenarios with some flavor text. And the premise of this game is that you're going to have an anomaly deck, which represents this computer virus that's taken you out, and you have to get rid of the anomaly deck before all of your characters' unique individual decks get exterminated. And on your turn, you can choose to draw however many cards you want from your deck or from the anomaly deck. You'll have a number of cards. You'll be like, oh, you're drawing 5 cards this time. So how do you divvy that out? And how do you divvy your resources out? And then in addition, you're not allowed to say exactly what's in your hand. And so this is played, almost it feels like it'll be played a bit like the Grizzled, in terms of you can't really communicate. You just have to see what other people are playing and make your own communication deductions from that. But just like that sort of game, or Hanabi, well, not quite like Hanabi, because you're drawing from these 2 main decks, and I don't know how much variation there's going to be throughout in terms of the actions, it might be a little bit hard to determine, but that also might excite you. You may not enjoy having the perfect information of Hanabi's cards, I guess, that are facing out. Although I guess you're drawing new cards in Hanabi anyway, so maybe that's not a good comparison. But it looks okay. I find the Grizzled to be good, but just that, good. And I kind of feel like this one will be probably similar, just based on how they describe the mechanics. The rulebook isn't good. It's not. They're like, the goal of the game is to win. Okay, thanks. Something like that. And inexplicably in this campaign, you can also pledge for their lowest tier, $18 Canadian, for the expansion. And this is for the expansion for a game that isn't out yet. It's a game that isn't created yet, hasn't had a first printing, or maybe it has. I have no idea if it has or not. It can't, though, because this is their first project on Kickstarter. And so they're offering you to purchase the expansion with the shipping and not the base game, and you need the base game to play with the expansion, but you can't get the base game at any other stores. It's just a mind-boggling decision to me that I try to not let it reflect upon my opinions about the game, and yet it does. It really does. So much so that I didn't even write how much the game actually costs. I think it's something like $40 Canadian. And then if you live in Quebec City or Montreal, it's $5 pickup. Otherwise, it's like $20 to get it anywhere in Canada. $23 US to get to the US. It feels like it's too much for what it is, especially when other games do similar things at like significantly cheaper price points. But if that core concept sounds interesting to you, check it out, and maybe it'll hit. And that finishes June 16th at 2 p.m. Moving along, and hoping my convention voice lasts for this video or isn't too scratchy, I'll put a filter on it.
Much better. Let's just do that for the rest of the video.
No, we're not going to do that. But moving along, we have Dockfighters, the Ale Wars. And unfortunately, this is not, as I had hoped it would be, a story or a board game about the people living in the town at the bottom of Smog's Mountain, collecting the barrels of ale from the elven city up the river, and just hoping that they don't get hobbits in their ale barrels. It's not that. I was disappointed as well. But it is a war game about fighting in a fighter plane. In the video, it's this voiceover of someone saying, "Oh, don't you just love the war? I wish I was back in the war flying planes just one more time, being a hero of the skies." And no, I mean, I don't wish that. I don't want to be in the war. Although when you do pitch it like they do, to feel free as a bird in the sky with Dockfighters, a bird with lots of guns. Well, you know, it starts to seem more appealing, I suppose. But this is absolutely not a game for me. This is just a bunch of minis with magnets attached to them for 99 euros and a complicated rule set of how fighter planes shoot each other down when they're up high or when they're in the middle or when they're down low. If you like war games, I think this is something you should check out. Maybe. You'll have to let me know if it's interesting to you or not. If anybody here likes war games, I also don't know why you're watching this channel, since I always say this when war games come across the desk. So you know what? Maybe this is the last war game that we're going to cover. Let me know in the comments if that should be a thing. Anyway, if you are interested in that, or if you just love minis with magnets on them because magnets are magic, well, check it out. That finishes June 16th, Thursday at 5:30 p.m. And next up, if the horrors of dockfighting wasn't enough for you, well, let me introduce you to your newest horror, and that is, of course, Bananya, where you go to bite into a delicious banana. Well, okay, bananas aren't that delicious. Green ones are. Green team, represent. But you go to bite into a delicious banana and then peel back the layer only to see a cat has been stuffed in there. It's just a fearful thing. Now, if we know that cats have infiltrated the banana skins, how are you ever going to safely eat a banana again? What happens when those bananas are turning yellow and brown on your table? Don't you have to go to the grocery store and open every single banana to make sure that there aren't any innocent cats living in there? It just seems like a horrendous world to walk into. But this is just a little card game, horrors aside, where you're going to draw some cards, and you can draw a card from the top of a deck, and that's face down, or from the top of the discard pile, and that's face up. And you're going to play a card into the discard pile, and you're going to do the action that it says, and the goal of the game is to collect all 10 species of Bananyas into your hand. And when you do, you shout, "Nya!" Specifically as instructed by the rules, and then you win. I think this video is just irrefutable proof that dogs are better than cats, because something like dogs, you get things like Bark Avenue, this beautiful, you know, uplifting tale of dog independence and intelligence, and then with the cats you get this horrendous monstrosity, this most likely from the mind of Rob Schneider's Animal comes Bananya. There really shouldn't be an argument about the two anymore. It's been put to bed. I'm sorry. But honestly, most of these sorts of games are overpriced, and this one, it's almost not. It's 15 bucks US, 20 bucks Canadian, and it's only $5 shipping. So if this particular style appeals to you, well, hey, call up Japanime Games and say, "You done it again," and get yourself one. That finishes also on the 16th at 6 p.m. Now, next up, we have a campaign for printed wooden tokens. This isn't a board game called Printed Wooden Tokens, where you're in a wooden token printing factory, although that would be fun. No, this is just physical tokens that you can use to upgrade your games. And if you ever wanted wooden tokens, well, these are certainly some of them. I don't know how I feel about the price point, honestly. The early bird feels a lot better when it's 27 bucks Canadian for 100 wooden tokens versus 34 bucks Canadian now that you'll have to pay for 100 wooden tokens. That doesn't feel great. But they've got a whole variety of stuff. I really like that they're trying to sell you on the types of games that you can use it on, and they're just like, which one's popular and has animals? Ark Nova! Yeah, get tokens for Ark Nova. You should buy all these tokens for your Ark Nova and replace the very clear visible symbols at the top of your cards with tokens now. I guess it would make it easier for everybody to see how many token types you have when you're across the table, because it takes up a lot of table space. But even still, no. It's a bit of a stretch. Not as much of a stretch as Alchemist, where they're like, hey, you know those cards that you keep in your hand secretly because this is a deduction game and you don't want to show what you are testing and what the results of it are? Yeah, why don't we replace those with very visible tokens for everyone to see that certainly won't be able to be registered by the app that you need to use to scan them. That one's a bit more of a stretch. But I do really like their tiers on this. You have for For 21 bucks Canadian, you can get 50 tokens. It's a level 0. You've heard of games, and now you want some tokens. That's a descriptor. Then Fast Gamer. You regularly play games, and therefore you need tokens. You're semi-professional or serious hobbyist, and therefore you need lots of tokens. Or their next pledge up. You're a professional, and therefore you need lots of tokens. And then the next one up. You live and breathe games, and therefore you need a great many tokens. They switched it up on you there. And then the best one that you can get for 300 euros or $440 Canadian is the game author max level. You stopped playing and became games instead. 1,000 tokens of your unique design. You have become games. It was probably what they felt when they created Manhattan Project. I am become games, the destroyer of worlds. Anyway, that's it. If you need some tokens, check it out. Let's move on. That finishes June 17th, Friday at 6:21 a.m. Next up, we have the finest fish, or as I like to call it, the finnest fish, in what is certainly not the worst pun you will hear on this channel. And this game was also at Origins, and I also didn't see it. It must have been in the same hallway or the same little path that I must have overlooked. Or maybe I was too busy having fun. No, I wasn't having fun. It was all work. Board games are no fun, they're work. And that's the company line that we're taking from here on out. I spent so much of the convention pretending to be a sensible human that now that I'm back in my cage where I belong, shouting to the screen, I can finally let my inner voice out and expose the true nature of board games, that they are no fun at all, they are competitive work, and must be taken with the utmost seriousness. That is the only way you can become games. Anyway, the finest fish is a tile placement and drafting game, and basically you're going to have this fish outline, you're going to be putting scales onto it in the hopes of creating the most elegant fish. And I don't know what sort of horrendous animal abuse week this is, as you're grafting these different scales onto the fish and then deciding, oh no, I don't like the look of that, and you're ripping it off the fish and throwing it into the fish bowl and scooping up another scale from some other mutant experiment that's been going on and just ramming it back onto your own fish. We wonder why goldfish don't have good memories. It's not because of their biological design, it's because they have too much trauma and they're blocking it all out every 3 seconds. This is the game that proves it. So you're going to be trying to get these objective cards which have little patterns on them, and then you are creating this mosaic that contains all of these patterns, basically. And so you're going to get 3 points for every card you make, you're going to get points for if you create clusters, and of course you're going to get points if you get the elusive black scales, which obviously represent the bruised parts of the fish's soul that is so tortured from these atrocious experiments you Frankenstein Bananya monsters have been inflicting upon these poor fish. And yes, I know Frankenstein is the doctor and Frankenstein's monster is the monster, but you are a monster like Frankenstein, just to be clear, if you play this game. Anyway, this is 45 bucks US. It doesn't matter what that translates into Canadian because it can't be shipped to Canada, but it has good shipping to the US. It's 8 bucks shipping to US, which is great. And anywhere else, you shouldn't consider it because it's too much to consider. It's like 28 bucks US. But if you are in the US, honestly, this looks like it could be fun. A very simple tile placement and creating game, and I kind of like the swap going back and forth in a strictly mechanical perspective and not obviously the thematic perspective that has tortured my soul and will live on in my nightmares. But if you're interested, check it out. That's June 18th at 1:59 a.m. Next up, we have a game called Draw 3, and this is a party game which has itself a not safe for work after hours version and is actually looks kind of good. I flipped it on you. I mean, the pitch is bad though. The game looks good, but the pitch starts with, hey, do you like fun? Well, no, as we already established, that pitch doesn't work on me. I hate fun. I like work. I don't like seeing people having fun. This is why I haven't put any money away for a later day, because somebody called it a retirement fund. See, I told you it wouldn't be the worst pun you'd heard. Anyway, you're going to take 3 words, and everybody's going to draw on a piece of paper a picture that incorporates these words, a funny picture or a serious picture, Hopefully not that serious. But you're going to draw this picture, and then you're going to pitch it to the group as to why it's the best picture, incorporating these 3 words. In their example, they say dog cool jam, and obviously it's the dog with sunglasses at a jazz bar that's going to win, and not the dog who owns a jamming factory and is just really hot in there. Although that's pretty good too. So this is $30 US, $39 Canadian, and it's free shipping if you live close. They have a little map, and it shows that you can get free shipping if you live in New York, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Vermont, New Massachusetts, New Rhode Island, and New Connecticut. And then otherwise it's like $10 US for the US and $22 internationally. And this looks good. It's a great concept. Unfortunately, it's also something that you could just play with paper and pencil with your already existing box of code names that you got with a bunch of words in it for cheaper, but it's still a really good concept. And I think it would be a fairly decent, fun thing to do. So if you're interested, check that out. That's June 18th at 7:33 a.m. Now, next up we have a game called Keydom's Dragons, and this has nothing to do with Keyflower, even though it's in the same sort of world and art style. But it certainly wants to pretend like it does. The original Keydom was created for R&D games back in 1998, and then Rio Grande acquired the license and changed it into Aladdin's Dragons, and now R&D apparently has the license back, and they're like, yeah, we really do like the dragons part, so we're gonna put out Keydom's Dragons and keep the little tweaks that have been made along the way. And this looks fun. It's basically just a blind bidding worker placement. So you're going to be one at a time placing workers down in various spots, but you're going to be placing them face down, and they all have a different power value. So only the workers with the most power get to take all the stuff on the action space. And so it's going to be this give and take, this push and pull of, okay, I really want all the stuff there, but did they put a 1 down, or did they put an 8 down? Because an 8's worth 8, and a 1 is pathetically only worth 1. And so I could just limp in with a 2 or a 3 and hope that they were hoping nobody would go there. Or it might be a switch, right? I can see the potential for a lot of fun bluffing that happens around the table. And you're going to be collecting these gems, basically, and then you're going to go to the castle and you're going to say, hey, I got all these gems, give me some artifacts. And they'll say, wow, you showed up with a whole bunch of strength just bursting in the door to get these artifacts. Clearly they're worth a lot of money. You have to pay us equal to the amount of strength that you've committed to the castle. But if you put the most strength, then you have the first attempt at buying these artifacts. And that's also a fun push and pull to me, that there are going to be these artifacts that you need to win the game, and you can get them, but the more you want them, or the more you need to get them first, the more it's going to cost you. And so the more you've had to win in other places. And that's cool. That seems cool. And what about ties? Well, ties are broken in turn order, so obviously there's a space where you can bid on becoming first player as well. Now, this is £45, which is already like $71 Canadian, and then after shipping, 14 to 20 pounds shipping makes it like $101 Canadian for me, which too much for a game that I'd want to pay like 50, 60 for, or really, I would want to pay like $20 on the aftermarket as I see somebody selling it, and I go, what the heck is that game? Never heard of it. And then pick it up and go, oh yeah, this is quite fun. Anyway, that finishes Monday, June 20th at 4 a.m. if you are interested. Next up, we have The Gig. It's a real-time roll and write about being in a jazz band. I mean, it might as well be a game about basketball. I've always said that basketball's kind of like jazz. When I'm in the pocket. Anytime I hear jazz, I think of Michael Scott. But the real-time aspect of this game is quite interesting. As most jazz musicians do, one of them will play all their notes as quickly as they can, and the other people will just try to harmonize with that rogue saxophone player. But you're all going to be rolling cymbals of the custom dice. They all have different music notes on them, which is cool. It's just 1 to 6, basically. And you're going to be placing these dice on a communal song sheet, and you gotta be rolling quickly and putting them there before other people get to take the melody of the song, because obviously you want the melody. And so you're all rolling the dice, and then when somebody's placed all their dice, they shout, "Take it to the bridge!" Like that cat banana peed abomination. You have to shout in order for it to happen. And then everybody else has to stop rolling and put their dice in where they can just fit them, if they can. And the purpose of putting these dice out on the sheet is that you're trying to create these patterns that you can then put on your own instrument. And when you put it on your instrument, you then get to activate different things depending on the number that you put. And so you're obviously going to want those higher numbers, so you're going to want to keep re-rolling, but maybe you roll and you can see how you can create a different pattern, so you're going to want to get the pattern specifically as well. And I feel like that real-time element feels like it would be a fun time. You'll get spotlight points, which you then use to purchase audience members, just buy their favor. When you can't get an audience, just buy them. And this is £23, $27 US, or $37 Canadian. And shipping, again, is okay if you're living in the UK. £5 to the UK, $10 to the US. Shipping to Canada is a little bit too much. For me, it's like $20 Canadian, and that puts it kind of just over the price range of what I really want to play. Plus, you have to factor in if your group is going to like real-time games, and they kind of do, but they don't always. But I do think that this one is unique, so it's definitely worth checking out, and that finishes June 21st, next Tuesday at 8 a.m. And next up, also finishing June 21st, next Tuesday, over on GameFound, this is our only GameFound title this week, it is the Unmatched storage system. So Unmatched is a game by Restoration Games where you take on a role, a character, and the other person takes another character, and you have this little board, and you basically want to whittle down the other character's health points. So every turn you're going to get to draw cards. If you move, you draw cards. I just demoed this at Origins because I'd never played it before, and it was fun. I was Luke Cage against Bullseye, and I just teleported across the room to Bullseye, who needs to keep distance from everyone because he's a ranged character. And the first card I drew just teleported me over to him, and I just started punching him in the face, and he could do nothing to stop me. So I had a good time being Luke Cage. I don't know if I would have had as good a time as Bullseye in that scenario. But this is a storage system for all of your Unmatched. So every time they put out a new Unmatched, you get a couple of characters in the box, right? And so people have built up all of these different boxes, which basically just have the character, the cards, and the board. And so Unmatched is like, hey, we're going to create a storage solution where you can keep all of your characters in just this little deck box. And that's great. And it's got a clear lid so you can see what character it is. Seems perfectly functional, and they're about $5 US for a deck box. So if you just wanted to get your characters in a deck box, boom, or you can buy a battle box, which fits 12 deck boxes, which can hold like 2 characters, or basically can hold a box in this tiny box, proving that the size of the Unmatched boxes are all completely unnecessary. Well, they're not, because you need to also have the board. That's important. So they get a pass. Anyway, it's $60 US for a full box of 12 boxes that can hold 24 characters. There's 30 characters that have been released. One of them is a T-Rex that will not fit into these boxes. And it's not bad. If you really love Unmatched, I mean, I'm not going to be able to talk you out of it. You're going to go for it because you're going to save the space. Or maybe you've already purchased a cheaper deck box that does exactly the same thing that you can just write on the side in Sharpie. Oh yeah, this is Luke Cage. Because there aren't that many cards or components associated with each character. And the way they showcase it in their videos and their demos, it's like you would never not put 2 characters in there, and then you would want to write what those 2 characters are. I don't know. I think you can do it for a lot cheaper, but if you love the game and you want it as this sleek display piece, I know, I'm not going to talk you out of it. But do just keep in mind that the shipping, there's a flat rate first, and then you get the little numbers on the side. It's easy to miss. They're saying, oh, to the shipping to the US, it's $5 a deck box. And you're like, okay, that's not bad. And then you realize, no, it's $20 shipping first, and then $5 for the battle box, I mean. And then you add on, if you're getting more and more stuff, you can get more and more shipping costs as these sorts of things work. Anyway, it looks cool. I was excited because I like storage systems. I met a couple of people at Origins who were like, hey, yeah, I saw your storage video, and now I make my own inserts as well, and that just made me so happy. I feel with this, you could make something a lot easier rather than getting it if you are interested, or you just get regular deck boxes. You know that it works. Just take one that's cost you like $1.50, and try it out versus spending $60 to $80 getting it to your door. That could be spent on more Unmatched characters. But if you are interested, hey, that finishes next Tuesday, June 21st, again at 8 a.m. And finally, bringing us into the last game on the list, we have a game called Survive Until Daylight, where you can get just the base game, or you can get the expansion, which offers a story mode, which, if I can quote the video exactly for a second, allows you to play against each other instead of Coop. Somebody's not getting hired back because of that. That's some fine voice acting you got there. I don't know what that means, but I'm just gonna say it instead of calling them to ask if that's how you say it. Anyway, this is a zombie game. You have to survive 6 waves of zombies that are gonna come out from a big stack of zombies. And the first part of this game just infuriates me because you're gonna draw one card one at a time until you flip over a card that says wave, and then the zombie wave happens. And this is fine because you want to make it variable when the wave's going to happen, and then you can also take a damage and shuffle the deck back in if you want to continue drawing more and more items because you're drawing more items and whatever. But just why draw it? Just deal the cards face up. Don't make everyone draw one at a time. That's going to slow the game. It's just a dumb mechanic. It's going to make people feel uninvolved in your game right at the start. Just include that you deal it face up, and it would be twice as good a game already. And then you trade your items around and you say, hey, I've got some nails, you got some boards, give that over here and I can make a barricade. And then you use your items to try to punch the zombies. It seems, it seems fine. I like the art. I mean, it doesn't seem fine. It seems not even fine, honestly. For my particular taste, it just seems way too light for me and way too random, and I'd rather play something heavier like Dead of Winter, I guess, instead of something that feels too random and not like something I would ever be interested in trying. Even though it's on the cheaper end, it's 40 bucks Canadian, that's not on the cheaper end. I take it back, it's just cards. And some tokens. 30 bucks US, maybe that's the cheaper end nowadays. But again, you also have to factor in that $10 to $16 shipping, so $60, way too much for what it is. I do love the art though. The art direction is fantastic. Maybe you want some art zombies. Maybe you like that sort of lighter element of style of game. Maybe you do. If you do, check it out. I finish this next Tuesday, June 21st at 1 p.m. That is it for the week. We've blazed through it, or we've taken the average time to go through it. So every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. Pick for me is something that I am the most interested in personally, and the pick for you is the thing that I think has the most mass appeal. And right off the bat, I'm triple an idiot because my pick for me is 44 BCE, and I really wish I had checked it out when I had the opportunity to do so on the weekend. I feel like I have let you down, but obviously that's going to be the pick for me because I love Rising Sun, and that tension that you feel when you're bidding the thing and you want to just double cross the deal that you made around the table feels like a really fun thing, or that's something that I particularly enjoy. In Rising Sun, I think it being the central mechanic of this game only benefits me potentially enjoying it. This isn't something that I'm going to pick up for myself again because it is $110 Canadian, right? Like that's a pretty hefty price point after the shipping, right? Like it's 59 US and then it's $110 Canadian. It was weird being at Origins and seeing all the prices in US and not converting them and just accepting them as that price point and thinking everything was cheaper. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great deal. That's tons of deals here. And then I realized, oh no, these are just, this kind of the standard prices. There were some good deals. Pandasaurus had good deals on Dinosaur Island stuff. But anyway, that's besides the point. 44 BCE. I'm sorry I didn't check it out at Origins. I wish I had, but it still gets the pick for me. I think that one is potentially worth checking out if you're in a place where the shipping's good enough and you like that tension of backstabbing and betraying your friends. That might be fun. And then the official pick for you, I think it's going to be the Gig. I think the Gig feels unique enough, a decently lower price point, right? 27 bucks US, and then you just have to get the shipping on that. I'm not going to get that one either, again, because shipping to Canada just doesn't make sense for what you get and personal preferences of real-time games, but it really intrigues me, and I like the different combos and the different maps that you get. Basically, every instrument you play is just a different map orientation, and so they're like, oh, you have to figure out 8 unique strategies. It's like, yeah, it's just like 8 different maps, but it's fun having that implementation, and I see it being fun of rolling and having to make those decisions if you push your luck or if you lock in the potential patterns that are less beneficial to you. And having that in the moment, in the real-time moment, feels kind of cool. So I would check that one out too. It looks neat. See, again, if the shipping makes it worth it for you. If you're in the UK, maybe that's the pick for sure. But yeah, the Gig looks fun. I think I would enjoy playing it. And if you get it, let me know how it is. Anyway, that's it for the week. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry this was delayed by a day. I appreciate those of you who checked in and were like, hey, you okay? Where's the Monday video? I appreciate it. It's great. I'm gonna stop talking now because my voice is a little tired after a long weekend of shouting over noise. But thanks for being here. As always, let me know what you are excited about. Coming up on Kickstarter, that's fulfilling. Just let me know. I like to hear people's excitement. I like people being excited about games because it's easy for me to be excited about games. I mean, I'm not allowed to have fun with them in their work, but I guess I can get around that loophole by being excited for them. Thanks so much for being here. Once again, my name's Chris George, and I don't have a catchphrase. If I did have a catchphrase though, and I'm not gonna do a user catchphrase this time, but I will. I'll keep doing that. I think that's fun. But it could be, I said this today when someone was asking me if I knew a game. I said, I know all the games. I think that would be a pretty good catchphrase. Hey, if you want to steal that catchphrase, go for it. Go right ahead. And I will see you in the next video.